Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. And if it's Thursday afternoon, you know it's Take 5 with Steven Travers. And today our guest is an All-American football player, high school, collegiate, even some pros, but a guy that you may recognize as soon as you see him as, I know that guy. I've seen him before. Where was it? Well, about 200 movies later, stuntman, actor, extra in all kinds of movies, and a choreographer, especially with athletic and football related, some of the best movies you've ever seen in television shows. Alan Graff is a part of that. Now, Alan, you and Steven have been friends for a long time, but I want Steven to introduce you because of the special relationship that you guys have had over the years. Go ahead, Steven.
Thank you, Harper. I first met Alan Graff at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena when USC played Texas in 2006. I interviewed him for a book that I wrote called One Night, Two Teams, Alabama versus USC and the Game That Changed a Nation, and later for another book called What It Means to Be a Trojan. I've stayed in touch with Alan throughout the years, and I'm good friends with many of Alan's teammates, not just from the University of Southern California, but from San Fernando High School. Anthony Davis, for instance. And so we want to be talking not just about USC, and not just about Hollywood, but also high school football back in the day, because it seems to me San Fernando High was as good as it gets at that time. But we're also going to be talking about Hollywood because this man, Alan Graff, is a legend in Hollywood. If you've seen any movies about football, this is the guy who was the second unit director who made that a great movie about football, whether it's Any Given Sunday or Friday Night Lights, you name it. And in most of those movies, as you mentioned, Harper, there's an appearance by Alan Graff. And then there's other movies where he didn't do the second unit, but he was in it as an actor. So we can talk about that. But right now, Alan Graff, I want to welcome you to Take 5 with Steven Travers. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. Be a lot of fun to talk about the old days.
Well, we'll do that. Alan, looking up some basic information about you, says you were born in Wichita, Kansas, but you spent most of your life in the Valley. Were you born in Wichita, and when did you move out?
Yes, I was. My family's from Missouri, and they were headed out to California, and they had to stop and have me in Wichita, Kansas. So I was only there for a few weeks, and then my family moved into the San Fernando Valley, and that's where I grew up at.
Back in the day, it was just orange groves and more orange groves,
trees,
maybe some almonds
trees.
and some lemon trees. What was it like when you were first growing up there?
You know, it was a lot of fun. It still seemed like you're out in the country, but you weren't far from the city, and a lot of great people came from the valley. So I have no problems with it. Richie Valens was a neighbor once upon a time. So there was a lot of big time people that grew up in the valley.
Yeah, amazing. So you were near Alamany High School, weren't you?
We're by Alamany, yes.
Yeah. Okay. My wife's, when we first met, she lived in a neighborhood. They said, yeah, Richie Valens was in this neighborhood back when, late 50s, early 60s. Well, late 50s, of course. And it's just a neat little part of town. When did sports become an important part of your life?
Well, I had two older brothers. The older brother wasn't much into the sports. My middle brother was very good. He was a big fullback, played at San Fernando, and then Northridge, University of Northridge there.
Cal State, sure.
Cal State, Northridge. Yeah. But I grew up playing Little League, and I was a big guy. All my life, I was bigger than everybody else. I didn't believe. My mom always had to bring my birth certificate wherever we went because I was just a big kid and smashing home runs. And my 12th, when I was 12 years old, I was a pitcher, and we pitched their game 2 games away from Williamsport at the World Series, and we lost.
Oh my gosh!
I played in the Little League World Series, but that didn't happen. So when I went to San Fernando, I still liked baseball, but I knew that football was going to be my sport, and I really worked on weightlifting and all that. And then a coach said, "You should shot put." And you're a big guy, so the shot putting really ruined my arm for pitching, and that was the end of my baseball career. So I stuck with football, and that's what happened in San Fernando. We had some great teams. We were city champs my senior year, 1967, and I was a player of the year, lineman of the year. Got recruited by a lot of teams, mostly in those days it was the Pac-8, and that's what happened. And I got recruited to USC, and I signed with USC.
Alan, before we go to your SC experience, do me a small favor. You made mention of something a moment ago. You were lifting weights a lot. That wasn't really a big thing to do back in the mid-'60s, was it? I mean,
No,
so
it wasn't.
was this...
Believe it or not, I had a junior high gym coach that was really built, and he said, "I want you to start lifting." And I think when I was in ninth grade, I was already 230 pounds. And I started lifting and benching. And when I was a ninth grader, I benched 300 pounds, which was a lot of weight back in those days.
No kid, it still is today. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the funny thing is, when the first day in school, the principal came and said, no visitors allowed. They thought I was a visitor, and I was a 10th grader.
Did you have to have your birth certificate in your back pocket again?
I said who I was. "Oh, yeah, I've heard of you. Come on, that's okay."
Yeah.
So,
well, back in those days too, again, because there weren't a whole lot of folks that knew what they were doing, especially deadlift or squats, at ninth or 10th grade. I can't imagine what kind of confidence builder that was for a young kid to be able to push 300 pounds or to work up to 315 and get 3 plates, and the confidence that it builds, but also the strength that's a part of that too. And then you see that when you're out there practicing with the team, right?
Yeah. If I knew any better, I mean, I didn't let my sons, who were bigger than me, lift at that age, that kind of weight. I waited until they got into high school and then did it that way.
Okay.
I was probably overdoing it, to say the least.
Well, when you get to SC, one of the things that they do is they tell you, hey, because of your speed, we're gonna move you from defense over to offense. When did you start training and running? Like, I got a chance to play here at the next level. From the high school experience, obviously you had a great team and city championships and all that kind of stuff, and you were integrated. So let me stop and do that. The mid-'60s was a different time. What was that like for you, having a black and white community that were playing together? Did you guys just play and enjoy it, or was there some strife that you had?
We did. There wasn't much strife back in the mid-'60s that way. San Fernando High was the most integrated school in LA City, and I didn't know any difference in either of the other guys. Yeah. I was the captain of a team that was mostly black, and I didn't think much of it. We were all just teammates. I never had a problem with that kind of stuff. But after I left, it got bad. They had fights and stuff, and they couldn't play night games after that for a while. But we had a lot of great players from San Fernando. Me and Manfred Moore, Anthony Davis, Charlie White, Kevin Wing. I mean, these are all great names, and that just tells you the kind of where you live and the kind of people who wanted to go to that school. And no one ever thought about race at that point. But after we left, a couple years later, it got bad, and that's what happened.
Yeah. But while you were there, now you were playing offense, or were you playing defense?
I played both ways.
Both ways. Okay.
Tackle and defensive tackle. And believe it or not, as defensive tackle, I was the smallest guy at 240 pounds. We had guys at 270 and 265, and I was at 235, 240.
Alan, I want to ask about the earthquake in Sylmar, I think in 1971. Did that affect your house? Where were you when that happened?
In 71, I was already at USC. my parents lived in Sylmar, and that was where it really hit.
Yeah.
And luckily for them, they had moved
A
away.
hip or a shoulder pad goes right into you and then scoots right on by. And next thing you know, the crowd is cheering and all that kind of stuff. There's a certain buzz that a guy gets knowing that he's doing his job. You're going to score with your man, so to speak, but your back is gaining 20, 30, 50 yards or getting a touchdown. What was that like in terms of elation for you as a lineman?
That was great, especially when you're blocking for Anthony Davis and you get great blocks and he runs right by you and he's twisting and turning, and that gives us a big thrill. You know, we had mostly the same offensive line for 3 years when I was at SC. The only person that changed was the tackle spot, and the rest of us were all together for 3 years, and that's important.
Sure,
that tells what loyalty is about.
Well, talk a little bit about the recruiting process. Was the first letter you got as maybe a sophomore or a junior from Oregon or Weber State or some other school? And when did you start realizing I may have a chance to play at the next level?
Well, when I was a junior, Washington State was recruiting me heavy, and so was Oregon State, those two schools. But I just kept it. I kind of wanted to either go to UCLA or USC. And obviously I picked the right school going to USC. And when I got the call from John McKay to come and have dinner at Julie's, which was a very famous restaurant there across the street from the school, I was very excited. We had just won the city championship. And it's funny how he knew all about me. And of course, I was recruited as a defensive tackle. And I never knew that they were going to automatically put me at guard because of my speed. And when I went there, he goes, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, I want to play. I want to play on a good team." He goes, he has his ring from 1967, and he goes, "Do you want to have one of those?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what I want. Yes." He says, "The only one you're going to get is sign here." I said, "Where?" That's basically how it happened. And
that's beautiful.
See, but when I was a freshman, they said, "Okay, Alan, we're moving you to guard." Well, I always liked the defense because I like to drill people, and it was fun for me, you know, to block offensively and take a little off of what I really enjoyed. But because they had the sweeps and they pull the guards, 28 pitch is what they call them.
Yep.
Me, Sam Bam Cunningham, Anthony Davis pulling. I really liked it because I'd be able to knock linebackers on their butts. So that was a lot of fun. So, you know, for 250 pounds, I was running a 4.9. Back in those days, I was good, 4.9 40, 250 pounds. So the quickness really helped.
Do me a favor, remind everyone the rules back then where freshmen couldn't play. What was that like for you, your freshman, you're having to sit out?
That was bad. I hated it. The freshmen could only play 3 games. We played Stanford, Cal, and UCLA. And it was just not much of it. You know, we were really blocking dummies for the varsity.
Yeah.
And we learned the offense through them. And, you know, I had to go against the Dirty Dozen. You remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that helped because I'm blocking guys that are unbelievable. It was harder in practice than it was in the games. That's what made it good.
Wow.
And you had a coach named Marv Goo. And Marv Goo was famous at SC. And he was the only guy that got away with gonging you in the head with his fist. And if you screwed up, boom, he'd knock you. I mean, who does that anymore? No one. But in those days, they did.
Okay, I got to ask, what was it like for you the first time you hear the marching band go down the peristyle end, or they play All Right Now, or Fanfare, Spirit of Troy? There's a certain mystique that every player that I've talked to says that it hits you in your spine. What was it like for you, Alan?
It was.
Hey, Alan, before you answer that, let's just hear a little bit.
That's right. run out of that tunnel and you hear that, and then all the crowd, because we always had sellouts. Our games were packed houses, and the crowd screaming, it got to us, I think the first time, believe it or not, I teared up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I figured all the hard work and all those double days that we went through, hot, miserable times, and that crowd and that song, it's unbelievable. And I'll never forget it. And believe it or not, I still have offensive linemen, Dave Brown and Mike Ryan, the center and the guard. All three of us are still close today. Unfortunately, the tackles have passed away, but the middle of that line is still together. And
I'm glad you brought that up. Isn't it interesting that, you spend so much time, you tell the dirty jokes, you tie your shoelaces slower than everybody else. You can't wait to not get out to practice. But there's a certain camaraderie while you're waiting in the locker room before a game where the guy on your left and your right. You got their back and they got yours. We got a job to do. But especially amongst offensive linemen, it's a very unique camaraderie, and it's a fraternity that exists long after the game. What's that like for you?
It's great. It's a tight unit. I don't think we would have been as good if we'd had to keep switching people around. Like I said, the only person that was switched was a tackle. But those guys, to be friends this 50 years later, 60 years later, it's unbelievable. But we would go to the line. This is how, and McKay loved it because we were so smart. If we had a fold block where I would block the guy over the center and the center would come around me and block his guy, all I have to say is Dave. I don't say fold this or that. We knew. I just say Dave. And we different things we do, different blocking schemes. We knew everybody's spot, and that's what helped. It was great.
Before I let Steven get involved, I know he wants to. I want one more question regarding, from your technique perspective as a football player, did it help that you played your freshman year, or at least you tried your freshman year, and then all that high school stuff where you learn about your footwork? Sometimes whether a defender is playing with his hand, was he leaning forward a little bit more? Is he going to stunt? Is he going to go to my insider? Did it help you at all playing on the defensive side of the ball to be a better offensive lineman?
It did, because little tricks that I learned in high school, believe it or not, they did it in the pros when I was a rookie with the Rams. And if you see a guy and his fingers are on the ground, his fingers are turning white, he's going to come drive block. He's going to come out and try to run block. But if he's sitting back a little and his fingers are barely touching the ground, he's going to pass block. Little tricks like that, and you think, well, is that right? And that's true. And that's what happened. And that's what defensive linemen read offensive linemen a lot like that. That's why when you're an offensive lineman, you got to have the same stance, whether you're pass blocking or run blocking. And that's you don't want to give that away. And like I was wanting to say to these guys last week when they were playing Notre Dame, you realize in 1971, we ran the same play. We had the ball first and ran what they call a 22 blast. And we drove down the field against Notre Dame and scored on the exact same play. And just drove it. It drove them nuts. And that's the kind of team we had.
Yeah, 50 years later, they couldn't stop it, right?
No, and not only that, we had a big fight. I don't know if you remember that, but in 71, there was a big fight on the field. We won the fight, too, by the way.
You didn't have a fight in that little, that tiny little expressway that you have in between the locker room and the field?
No, this was on the field. One of the reasons is, I can't tell you their names, but once we scored that first time, and we never got out, when we kicked the extra point, they just kept the same lineman in those days. And I'm going to say his name, Greg Marks. He was an All-American defense. He stomped on my shoe and broke my baby toe. And I said, that's it, you're going to get it. And so they had to cut my shoe out and tape my toes together. So then when this fight happened between Walt Patulski and John Vella, all hell broke loose. And I tried to get to him because I was going to drop kick him right in the crotch. But I never got to him. Just it ended so fast. So that's the kind. But see, that's what I'm talking about, toughness. And I know I'm going off, but you got to be tough to play the kind of football the SC plays. And that defense last week did not play tough. No, you don't open your shoulder. You stay. Don't open your shoulders and let them run 60 yards up the middle. God.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But you mentioned John Vella, and Harper went to Notre Dame High School, and I'm sure John Vella went to Notre Dame.
I know John Vella very well because we were freshmen together, and I used to drive him. Believe it, I drove a VW Beetle. Me and him, I drive him home to his house every weekend so he could get his clothes washed, and I would live in Sylmar and come back, and then I'd pick him up Sunday. So me and him and that little big old guys, so we were very close because we lived in the valley together.
There used to be a thing in the 50s where how many kids can get into a phone booth or into a VW? You could only get two because the two of you were so stinking big, right?
Well, eventually we got Chris Vella, his brother, in, and he got in the back seat.
No room at all. Go ahead, Steven.
I know we're talking about SC and we're going to get right back to it, but I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, you lived it. Who were the 3 or 4 best high school programs in Southern California when you were at San Fernando High?
Okay.
Who you have to beat to win? You were in the city, but if there was
in the city, I'm going to say this. San Fernando was very good all the times I was there. Birmingham High School. Remember the Hayhoe brothers?
Yes. Big tall guys blocked the field goal against UCLA in 67.
Mike Scarpace, a great guard.
Yeah.
I took after him. Then they had Gardena and Carson. I would say those were the 4 high schools that were very good back then.
What about the southern section, or did you get a chance to really understand how good they were?
I didn't follow it that much, unfortunately, Steve, but the only teams, because I played in the city championship in 66, we lost to Carson, which was a fluke, got out coached. And in 68, we beat Westchester.
Okay. I'm kind of thinking that Bishop Almont, which had...
Well, that wasn't... Bishop Almont is not city. It was CIF.
No, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying. They're in the southern section.
Oh, yeah.
They had Pat Hayden, John Shara, J.K. McKay, so they had to be pretty good. So you never crossed swords with those guys.
We never played those intersectional games like that.
Yeah, for those who don't know, in the city of Los Angeles, there's city teams from some of the city-governed high schools, and then there's what's called the California Interscholastic Federation, the CIF. There's a northern section up in the San Francisco, the Bay Area, right, and the southern section, which was... And they never played each other. There's just too many football teams to be able to do something like that. You're shaking your head, Alan. Please go ahead.
I agree with you that they would never play those schools.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many city teams there were. There could have been 60, but there was over 100 and something, 200 CIF schools.
Right. And generally speaking, unless it was a rare non-league, non-conference game, they would very seldom play outside of the city. Only would play city teams, and the CIF would play CIF teams, unless there was a scheduling. The athletic directors may get together at one school. Hey, we should play in a couple of years, and they would do that. You mentioned a couple of the Pac-8 schools. You mentioned your recruiting trip to the restaurant right across the street from USC. And John McKay, did you have a thought at all about maybe another school, or did you take any other visits?
I didn't, because once SC just won the national championship. I mean, it's pretty hard to turn down a team like that.
No kidding.
And UCLA was pushing for me really tough. But I just, something about SC just stayed in my mind. Rod Humanick recruited me. He's no longer there, but those guys were right. And I went to the campus. I checked it all out. But in those days, it wasn't much. Their athletic department, they didn't have all this great stuff they have now. But they had great players, and it was exciting. I mean, you know, they had the Outland Trophy, Ron Yeri. I remember Ron, big, tough guy. So they had a lot of linemen that made stuff out of themselves, and I thought that's the best place.
Yeah.
So
and the Dr. Bartner and the University of Southern California Trojan Marching Band, and then the Coliseum, and UCLA was playing there too at that time, weren't they?
yes,
And the Rams and all that, and interaction.
all of it.
Yeah. But getting a chance, we had Richard Wood on a couple of days ago, and Richard said he nearly cried. He goes, "It was one of my goals in life was to be able to play in the Rose Bowl, and you get an opportunity to do that, right?" The 72 team. Tell us a little bit about what an amazing group of guys that all seemed to come together. They were focused. The 71 team, what, 5-6, if I'm not mistaken?
6-4-1. 6-4-1 was
Please forgive me. Go
2
ahead.
years, 70 and 71, 6-4-1, which was crappy for SC.
Sure.
And then in 72, we were 12-0, the first team to ever go 12-0. And it was exciting. We had a tight-knit group, and we just didn't want to lose ever. We were never behind ever. And going to the Rose Bowl now, you probably don't know this, but in 1973 Rose Bowl against Ohio State, the biggest crowd ever in the Rose Bowl, it was like 103,000 people. And it was, you talk about getting adrenaline going. It was awesome.
Well, you started that year, Alan. You go to Little Rock. You play Arkansas. I think you beat them 37-14 or something like that. There's about 50,000 for that. A big crowd in that year at the Coliseum was about 65 or 70. So you're almost double that crowd size when you get to the Rose Bowl, right?
Yeah, and you know who the quarterback was there? Joe Ferguson.
Joe Ferguson, that's right. Yeah.
But you know what? I always like to get on when we went to another school. I always like to shut them up, as I say. And they did all this sweet pig, you know, the whole first half, sweet pig. In the second half, you could hear a pin drop. We just steamrolled them. I mean, I used to tell Dave, the nose guard is 190 pounds. You know, we're steamrolling these guys. There's no size. They were quick, great quickness.
Yeah.
But we just kept going, and then eventually they were just tired out. We just, you know, we had a big line considering, you know, and everywhere we went, it was like that mostly.
Yeah, that I guess
we'd wear them out.
Coach McKay and then your offensive line coaches. Marv was on the defensive side. You mentioned Marv Gu earlier, but you know, size matters, doesn't it, Alan? I mean, at least in football, especially on the offensive line, man, it's a big differentiator.
Just remember something. John McKay moved Marv Gu to the offensive line in 71. That was a big mistake because he's a true defensive guy.
Right.
And so he moved him back in 72. And you saw what happened. Our team was great. We were a tight-knit group. We had a lot of Christians on that team. It meant a lot to us to be, you know, have God in our lives. We used to, in the Rose Bowl, we handed out pamphlets that had our statements on them, and from the Ohio State players to the SC players, which was awesome. No one had ever done that before. So that tells you how tight-knit we were, you know. Charlie Young, you know, all the guys, didn't matter if you're black or white, Mexican, whatever. We just had a common goal, and we never wanted to lose like we did in 70 and 71. And I'm proud to say I never lost 3 years to Notre Dame. Never.
Well, speaking of the 72, one of the greatest teams ever in terms of the way that the writers, the coaches all consider that group was so good and the depth and everything like that. The newspaper said the following.
The what?
Harper is freezing, so I'm going
You
to
got froze.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here.
Dave Branthony, and you were part of that historical day, obviously blocking for him.
I was, yes. Notre Dame, they all talk about the 74 where they're behind and he ran the kickoffs back and everything.
Yes.
But people forget in 72, he scored 6 touchdowns right up because of the offensive line. He loved that. That made him right there.
Yeah. There was no question.
Did he let you ride in the Mercedes or the Cadillac or the Rolls Royce at all?
No.
You had to earn that your own a little bit later. Well, the 72 team, obviously national champion. They're a ring.
There it is. Can you see it?
Ring. What did you guys get for that? I mean, a little diamond in there because they're a senior in high school.
Well,
what do you got there? Show me.
We thought it was a ruby, but it's just glass. It's still an unbelievable ring. It's look at all these years and I'm still wearing it. All the guys on that team still wear their rings.
Yeah.
We're very proud of that, and we're blessed to have it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because you mentioned Dave Brown, and I know Dave Brown very well, and there was an event. He was not the star player of the team, but he was a key guy on the team. And you mentioned playing Notre Dame in 1971. And that you had 2 seasons, 70 and 71, where the team had mediocre records. And in 1971, I think you were 2-4 going into the Notre Dame game. And Dave Brown goes to John McKay and he says, "Coach, our team is divided." And McKay goes, well, tell me something I don't know. And he goes, well, we're divided racially and we're divided spiritually. And there was an argument over who should be the quarterback, whether it should be Mike Ray, who was white, whether it should be Jimmy Jones, who was black. And Brown goes, what this team needs is Jesus Christ. And Brown organized a, what was it called? Athletes in Action demonstration. And this whole team came together because you were talking about this. That was the team after that demonstration that went to South Bend and beat Notre Dame, did not lose another game in 1971, did not lose a single game in 1972, was not beaten until halfway through the 1973 season. So why don't you talk about Dave Brown and the role, his spiritual role on that team, and also I think Charles Tree Young. The two of them came together and were sort of the leaders in this aspect.
Well, you're absolutely right, Steve. Dave Brown was the leader. That Athletes in Action started a whole deal with the Christian guys. We would have prayers the night before the games. And you know what? McKay, he was a staunch guy. At first, he didn't really like that idea. But when he saw the camaraderie that we had on that team and all the players, he said, that's fine. You guys do what you can, And even before games, after games, we would pray. And it changed our game. It changed our team, basically. Like you said, in 71, we said, that's it. We're not going to do this anymore. And in 72, with that kind of camaraderie, that kind of religious background that we were putting in there, it was just a different maker. And I would say this, guys go, oh, you're a Christian, you're not that tough. Are you kidding? We had God in our lives. We were tough, and no one messed with us, You'd be surprised after games when other teams would come up to us and go, I never played a team as tough as you guys, a lot. So am I the one that turned it down? God was in our lives, and Dave Brown started it. And that's why we have believe it or not, and I told you, we have a Bible study every Wednesday night. Last night we had our Bible study, and 15 guys were there, and a lot of our players. And, a lot of guys need help because guys are getting injury, knee replacement, hip replacement. I had cataract surgery. And everybody prays for everybody. And I think that's what this team needs. They need more Christ in their life.
Alan, you make a very interesting point. If I can interrupt real quick, I got the great honor of playing twice in my career with Reggie White. And Reggie was asked once, well, how can you be so aggressive and still be a Christian when you're on the field? How can you be that? And he goes, well, I aggressively present the gospel, and everything about me is aggressive, and I do it out on the field as well. And how can you argue with that? I mean, it just makes sense. But, you know, you're still doing what you're asked to do. It's a job. It's a duty, if you will. It's what you love. And doing it with everything that you have. Who wouldn't want that?
I don't know, Harper. He had a great line for that. And that's the way I felt, and that's the way all of us felt. You know, we started with probably 7 guys on the team that would get together. And by the time we were done, it was up to 20-some guys. And that's a lot of guys. And it didn't matter if you're black or white or Mexican, whatever we had.
Yeah.
You know, same deal. So you can't knock that. And McKay never knocked it. And even Goo had to change a little bit. No more dong.
Did he just cuss you out a little bit less than what he normally did?
Yeah, but you know, that's part of football. Let's face it. Come on, you're not goody two shoes just because you're a Christian. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, some people say, well, I don't want choir boys playing. No, we're not choir boys. We're just, and there's also a separation, I guess you say, where some players may go, well, if I'm not a believer, I don't feel welcome, or that's not the case either. It's like, hey, no. You're with us? Terrific. If you're not, that's okay. You don't have to be. But we've got a goal and a perspective that looks not just beyond the game, but beyond our lives after the game is over. And we're going to.
We weren't judgmental to those guys who didn't want to come and pray with us. How you can't knock people like that. Everybody has their own life, but what happens is they see how good we act and how great our relationship is, and they want to be part of that. Some people do, some don't, and that's how it got bigger and bigger.
Well, it sounds like you're leading by example, and you're talking about toughness. I mean, how much tougher does it get than to have your hands and your feet nailed to a cross for the benefit of your fellow man? I mean, that's as tough as it gets.
Yeah.
But we were talking 71, 72, but I want to swing back 1 year, 1970, and you guys go into Birmingham, Alabama, and you beat the University of Alabama. And this was a pivotal game in collegiate football history in which an integrated Trojan team plays a segregated Alabama team, and you win. And you had a number of black players who, before that game, were not happy about going there because they felt that McKay was maybe doing a favor for his friend Bear Bryant. But things just came together. It really did seem like God sort of smoothed everything out. You were there. These were your teammates. That was your team.
Okay, let me stop you right there, Steve. I didn't make that game.
Well, I know you didn't. I
had double vision.
You didn't make that game, but you were on that team, and you were.
I was on that team. That's the only game I didn't start. But I had double vision, and I got hit so hard in the head during practice that they couldn't. Even if I put a patch over the eye, they didn't want me to mess with it. So I missed that game. It was a heartbreaker to miss that game.
It had to be. But what did anybody understand the magnitude of that game at that time?
No, they didn't. No, not at the time. It was after the fact that it got more understanding of what happened. You know, we never that's what I think. When I said San Fernando was the most integrated school, SC had the most integrated. We had a lot of black guys, whites. We didn't think about that. We just thought as players, I don't care what color you are, as long as you can play. And that's when they went down there, and Alabama was all white. No one thought about it until after the fact, when they're told, hey, man, there's not one black guy on that team. Well, now we know what's going on. And we did think that Bear Bryant afterwards or before called McKay down and said, I'm having trouble recruiting black players. I want to have an integrated team come down here and show us what they can do. And I think that's really what helped him. Now, a lot of people say, oh, that's BS. I don't think it is. I think he was a smart man to do that. So we went down and they romped on him and they couldn't stand it, And that's what changed. And then the next year he got a couple of blacks, and then eventually that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think you guys really had an eye-opener when they came back to the Coliseum and beat you in 1971. And that
Why did you have to remind me of that?
Yeah.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah. Well, let's move off that. They did the wish. They ran a wishbone on you.
Okay, so our defense wasn't used to the wishbone.
Yeah.
Nobody
was.
The only team that really whipped us in the wishbone was Oklahoma, 71. That was horrible. And they agreed. The defense just couldn't handle it.
Well, by 72, you went up against UCLA. I don't know whether you would call their offense with Mark Harmon a wishbone. I think some people called it the veer. I never really knew that much difference between the two. But you certainly stopped that cold.
That's right.
Beat the Bruins. And that was part of this unbelievable run. We've touched on it a little bit. But a lot of people say to this day that team, 1972, is the greatest college football team ever assembled. What say Alan Graff?
I say you're right. They said, I think some of the sports writers about 3 years ago said, what are the best teams in college history? And they had us number 3, the 72 team. And I think they had Nebraska was one of them. What was the nose guard that won the trophy? That nose guard.
Oh, yeah.
But we had a complete team in 72. We had size, we had speed, we had tough guys. James Sims was an outside backer, just ripped people new ones. And he was just so strong and fast, The middle linebacker he just said it was a 3-time All-American.
Batman Woods. And people do not realize how good Rod McNeil was. He was injured, but
Rod McNeil. He's on our Bible study. He's there. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and if he didn't get hurt, I don't think Anthony Davis would have saw the light. But he got hurt, and Anthony Davis came in and did his thing.
I don't think AD started until the 9th game of the season.
He
gave 1,000 yards and made All-American in 1972 without even starting until the last 3 or 4 games of the season.
When they were recruiting him, they said, Alan, he went to he's a San Fernando boy. Can you talk to him and tell him how great it is here and everything? I said, sure, I'll talk to him. We went out and had lunch one day, and I said, listen, Anthony, I think you're too small. You might not make it here, I told him the truth. And then I said, but I've seen you play in high school, and you're quick and you got moves. So I would love to see you come here, and I'd love to block for you. And he came to USC, but I told him he might be too small. And
did you know he was a baseball player as well, and a very good one?
Good. Yeah.
But you didn't try to talk him out of it any further than just going, you're too small. All right.
That's right. I didn't.
Now I'm going to block for you. Now that I've told you that, you're my brother forever if you come to this school, right?
And I have it up in my office, but the 73 schedule has me, Manfred Moore, San Fernando boy, and Anthony Davis pulling on the sweep. And how great is that picture to have 3 guys from the same high school be on the SC program for the next year.
Plus, Manfred had a brother who went to San Fernando who was a star at UCLA, right?
No, he went to SC.
Manfred's brother?
Manfred's brother.
What was his first name? You remember?
I can't think of it. I can't think. But his older brother was
Malcolm Moore.
Malcolm Moore.
He went
to UCLA?
I thought he played for the Bruins.
I might be wrong.
Yeah. I think he was a little bit younger, but you're absolutely right. And of course, you mentioned earlier, Charles White. I mean, the talent was off the charts.
Off the charts.
I mean, you're talking pro football players, all Americans. Should be 2 Heisman Trophy winners because Anthony the Heisman in 1974.
Yeah.
But it was really unbelievable. But then after USC, is this when you go to the Los Angeles Rams?
Yeah, I wasn't drafted. I thought I'd be drafted because they kept saying, "Hey, man, we're going to pick you in the, I don't know, 8th round or something." Back then they had how many rounds? But I didn't get it. And the minute the draft was over, they called and said, "We want to have you try out for the Rams and, as a free agent." And I said, "Well, okay." So I went there. And I was lucky enough because McKay was the coach of the college all-star games when we played against the Miami Dolphins in the college all-star game. You remember when they used to have those?
Sure.
Yes.
In the Soldier Field. So he picked like 6, 7 SC guys because we're all there, and went back there and played against the Dolphins, and came back to Rams. We won. We almost beat that game, almost, and that's when they decided they better stop that. If the college all-stars beat the Super Bowl champs, it could be embarrassing. So, I go against Merlin Olsen, Jack Youngblood, all these guys every day with the Rams, and they kept making cuts, and I'm still there, and I'm going, "Oh man, maybe I got a chance here." So St. Louis was looking for a guard, the Cardinals, and they called my agent and said, "Hey, we'd like to see Alan Graff." Well, the Rams wouldn't let me go until the last cut. And they let me go. Well, they already picked a guy, and that was that. But it was interesting to go from there because you would go into a locker room in the pros, and guys are smoking. no big deal. Jack Snow, great wide receiver. All these guys, Joe Schiavelli, Kenny Hyman, all those great names. And I thought, God.
John Hadel, I think, was their quarterback.
Yeah, John Hadel. That was his first year in '73.
Yeah.
That
was Chuck Ground.
Chuck Knox.
Chuck Knox. Yeah, that was a good team.
He hated rookies. I knew my days with numbers. So that ended up, but a year later, they started the World Football League. And me and Dave, a couple of other SC guys went up to Portland Storm. They had the Southern Cal Suns, Portland Storm, and we went up there, and they were paying us all $500 a game. Big, yeah, $500 a game. We came back the next year. They said you're going to make more money. I think $600 a game or some stupid thing. But the league folded, and I came home, and they were doing a movie at Disney called Gus, about a mule that kicks field goals. And Les Josephson from the Rams called me and he said, "Hey, Alan, what are you doing?" I said, "Doing nothing. Our league got folded. I'm home." He goes, "How'd you like to work in a movie doubling Dick Butkus and playing in a movie? You're a dead ringer for Dick Butkus." I said, "Yeah, I'm there." So I told Dave about it. I got him on there and we went and worked on this movie, Gus. I don't know. I'm sure you never saw it, right?
I think it starred the guy from Hogan's Heroes, I think.
Yeah, he was on it. A lot of those Disney people, comedians were on it. And
Don Knotts. But Vincent McAveety was the director of that.
That's right.
And he did the Love Bug, Herbie the Love Bug movies that were so popular with Disney. And my mother and Vincent's wife, Mary Ann, were very good friends. And so I did get to see Gus and the kicking mule and with the helmet. Right. I wouldn't have known it. Obviously this is your first movie, but you were in hundreds of different
After that, well,
TV and film. So this is the first one, and just by chance you had picked up the right call from the right guy with Les Josephson. The next thing you know, you're backing up Dick Butkus.
Well, I got very friendly with Dick. We were almost like twins when you stood us side by same size. He might have had a quarter of an inch height on me, but we were the same size. And he just retired, so he was getting acting parts.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'll double you. So I doubled him for over 20 years in TV.
Oh my gosh.
And we became
talk real quick. What an amazing! He's a gigantic human being, isn't he? I mean, for a linebacker back in the
back in those days,
late 50s and early 60s, he's absolute monster, and that's why they call him the monsters of the midway because how big that guy was.
Yeah, he was 6'3" and weighed almost 260.
Oh.
He was big, and just when you see him off the field, nicest guy in the world. You never know. On the field, he just changed completely, a 180, just very violent.
Yeah.
And that's what made him great. And he was a devout Catholic. Believe me, he was really into his religion. And but there's another guy. You didn't have to show his toughness off the field. He was tough on the field. He was a man's man.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm going to tell you how I got started.
Please do. Yeah. I'm sorry. I went down the rabbit trail with you. I apologize.
Okay, anyway, so I did that show. And then at SC, they got us jobs working extra, and I worked a couple extra jobs. And then there was a big shot at Universal, two brothers, and my mind escapes me. I'll think of their name in a minute. But they're up in the tower, at Black Tower. And I went up, I called him, I said, hey, because this guy used to sit with me at all the banquets at SC. God, I wish I could remember his name. It's going to kill me now. Anyways, I went up there, and he goes, hey, Alan, how you doing? I said, well, I'm doing good. He says, what are you doing? I said, well, I want to get in the movies. I like it. I worked on a couple of films, and I really want to do something in it. He goes, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. I want to act. I want to do stunts. I want to produce. What do you have? And he goes, hold on. And he pulls his drawer out and he gets a book and he's leafing through the book and he goes, well, this is all I got. I go, what is it? He goes, I can put you in the mail room for $10 an hour. Mail room? Hey, Alan Graff, come on, SC Trojan. He goes, that's the best I got for you right now. And I said, all right, well, I'll just go work myself. So I went back in. And I worked hard as a stuntman. I got with stunt people, and I trained real hard to be a good stuntman. The good thing is they like me is because, I was very physical. I'd run through buildings and things. I didn't care. So I saw him about 6 years after that in the commissary at Universal. And he waves over to me, hey, Alan, come here. He goes, how you doing? I said, I'm doing good. He said, I'm glad you're doing good. He says, because I told you get a mail room. I said, yeah, you told me in the mail room, $10. He goes, yeah. He says, that would have lasted about 3 months and I'd have made you a producer. And I said, oh, okay, great. But I said, you know what? Thank you very much, but I'm happy what I'm doing. I didn't want to sit behind a desk and have to BS a bunch of people. I'm doing what I want to do and I'm happy about it. He goes, they're right. You're going to be successful at what you do. And I was very blessed. I wish I could remember the guy's name. It's driving me nuts.
Two things pop up with what you were saying. Everyone knows now how George Lucas, for example, and the SC film and television and movie production, how well developed that is. Was it a part of your life when you were going to school there?
No, because I didn't think of it. I wanted to. You know what I wanted?
You just wanted to play on Saturdays, right?
Huh?
Just play on Saturday. I want to play games on Saturday.
No, but I majored in business. I don't know why I did, because I didn't want to take a foreign language probably. So I majored in business and I wanted to open Big Al's Burgers, or something like that.
Yeah.
By the way, when I was with the Rams, I dated Carl Karcher's daughter, Carl's Jr. I could have married her and had Carl Jr. outfits. That's another story.
So was the concept of the burger and the dripping stuff from watching you eat a hamburger on a date, I guess,
Well,
did that come? I'm teasing with you.
no, but I did do a McDonald's commercial eating hamburgers. But anyways, where was I?
Well, Alan, you worked with Warren Beatty on Heaven Can
Wait, yeah.
Right.
So that one was one of my first movies. I wasn't stunt coordinating yet, but they picked me because of my football background at SC, and they picked 4 or 5 guys, and I got to work on that, and that was a lot of fun. But I said to myself, I'm not going to shoot. If I ever get the opportunity to direct or work football movies, I'm not going to do what they do. I'm not going to make it phony. I want to make it real. You can't have a linebacker come up and scream at the quarterback, I'm going to get you, man. I'm going to get your mama or this or something. I said, that's just illegal. It won't happen. I never wanted to do that. First of all, I never wanted to do something to where my teammates at SC would go, oh, Graf, that's phony. What are you trying to do? And so I kept my promise. And when I got to my chance, I made sure that the football that I saw and directed was real. And then I got NFL camera operators to work with me to make it even more special. And that's what I did. And my first one that I directed was Necessary Roughness. I don't know if you saw that one.
Sure. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie. And
Scott Bakula is
Scott Bakula,
a veteran quarterback going to college at age 30.
Yeah,
with Hector
shot that at North Texas
in it, and it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, that was my first in North Texas University. We shot that.
Yes,
and that was the start of my football. And 17 football movies later, I've had a great career.
And I see, and I would periodically email you, like, I just saw you, or did my eyes deceive me? You played, now you worked with Oliver Stone at least twice. Did you play a Miami policeman who tells Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison to stop smoking pot?
Yes.
In The Doors.
The Doors movie.
And then you had one of the most classic, now this is not second unit directing, this is one of the great scenes of all time. You're the NRA guy sitting in a coffee shop in the San Fernando Valley. Don Cheadle is buying donuts, and some guy comes in to rob the place, and you pull a weapon and you shoot, and there's a crossfire, and everyone gets shot, including yourself, and Cheadle walks out. What a scene. Can you talk about the choreography of that scene?
Well, it was pretty simple, but it was pretty.
By the way, I'm sorry. That's Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights,
we're talking about.
Boogie Nights.
Yes.
It was a great Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah.
Was it Paul Thomas Anderson?
It was Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, and that was a great scene and intense. And the funny thing is, Steve, I pulled this big Desert Eagle out and looked, and they did a close-up, and you can see my ring, me holding the gun. How awesome is that?
That is magnificent. They didn't force you to take the ring off.
No,
huh?
no one even a script super, no one saw it. So I guess
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that.
If you see it. But it's either that one they talk about, people say, or LA Confidential.
That's right.
The start of the movie.
Right.
When I play the wife beater.
This guy's only two months out of the queue, and he's already beaten his wife. Oh, come on there. It's Russell Crowe. The guy said, come on, you got to get the liquor back to the station.
Yeah,
no, I've got to give this guy a lesson.
And I couldn't believe how people, I'd be in a grocery store or something. People were, hey, I know you, I know you. But I can't believe how people recognize you,
And plus in football movies like Friday Night Lights and Any Given Sunday, it's always you who's going, first down, playing the referee, you know.
Friday Night Lights was, I thought, one of the better football movies.
No question.
Yeah, it was a really good one. Any Given Sunday was by far the most plays that I was directing for 4 months with Oliver Stone, and that was really good. And
I think
you want to know something like, didn't you say that the two brothers saw the program and they thought that was one of their better football movies? They have their Philadelphia Eagles.
Invincible?
No, not Invincible. I'm talking about the guys that have their podcast.
Oh, no, The Replacements.
The Replacements.
With Keanu Reeves. Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce said it was their favorite football movie. They had Keanu Reeves on, and Keanu just loved it. He worked with Hackman, and he mentioned said you just made that movie a really good football movie, you know, even though it was kind of a comedy. But boy, did you work with Jon Favreau on getting him big for that movie?
Yeah, I worked with him. Now he's a big time producer. You know, he's a Star Wars guy. But I'll tell you, I know what happened. Howie Long, who I worked with, thought The Program was one of the better football movies.
Yeah, James
Caan. But The Program, and then a lot of people go, I say, what about Waterboy? Oh, I love Waterboy. That was so funny. It was a cult movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I pat myself on the back on that because the director wanted to make everything funny. I said, please, don't make the football funny. Make the characters funny, but make the football real. And we did, and it sold it. You know, they loved the fact that we did it that way.
You bring up a very interesting point, Alan. One of my favorite movies of all time is Miracle. And if you don't mind me mentioning just the real thing about that, obviously it was a historical, documented, everybody knows what's happened. It's like the Titanic. But when they filmed it, one of the differentiators is they took hockey players and they taught them how to act rather than taking actors and try to teach them how to skate. You mentioned that earlier. You want the football to be real. There were scenes that you were in. You used to play. You've been in a three-point stance. How important is that from a behind the camera aspect to be discussed and to win the debate, to be able to get the director go, you know what, Alan, I agree with you. I think the movie would be better if we did it with real football action.
Well, that's why on Friday Night Lights, you know, I got as many. What I'd do is I'd go to a town and I'd have tryouts just like they would in the NFL, combines. You know, I had 800 guys show up there. Friday Night Lights, I mean, any given Sunday in Florida, I had something like 1,000 guys, and I narrow it down to 40 guys. But of those 40, I would see how many guys were comfortable with doing dialogue in front of camera. And then I would show it to the director. I said, this guy could do this, and you wouldn't have to double him. He is the guy. And that's what happened a lot of times, you know. So that's why I hired former players, you know. Get the real football, and if a guy could do 3 or 4 lines, then you got it made. And I did it all the time. Same thing.
There are some actors who don't look good in a baseball uniform, and they throw like they don't look like they've ever played baseball in their life. That kind of takes away from a movie. For you to actually keep it real and go, you know what? The tryout, I'm going to have you catch a ball. You're going to run fast. I want to see what you look like with the helmet and shoulder pads because you want it to be as real as possible. And the respect that you started to earn because of that gets you callbacks, doesn't it? Hey, we're making another movie. We're going to do Necessary Roughness, or we're going to do Any Given Sunday, or we're going to do The Replacements, and people would start calling you over and over again, right? Because you're making good decisions.
Well, because they would see the difference of what my football looked like. Plus, I told you I got NFL Films guys, and you know, when I did Jerry Maguire, this is a good one. So I did Jerry Maguire, and I had to have the guy catch the ball in the end zone. He had to flip and land on his head. Remember that?
Yes.
So he's laying there for the longest time. And but what I did is they called the guy that did Monday Night Football, the producer, and he came out, and I wanted to know where he put the cameras. And I said, do I have my cameras in the right place for your TV stuff? He goes, absolutely right. He says, but I can't put a crane out in the field and come down on the huddle and then rise up and see a play. He says, those are awesome shots. I said, yeah. You know what they did after that?
Spider cam. You created the spider
That's
cam.
right. The guy says, I'm going to get something and I'm going to do the spider cam. And that's what happened. So I'm kind of proud that he saw that and they went to that.
Hey, did you get it? Do you get any residuals for coming up with that idea, Alan?
Huh?
Do you get any residuals for coming up with that great idea?
No, squat. No, I don't get nothing. But I feel proud enough of that because that. And then the three announcers, you know, that did Monday Night Football.
Sure.
Let
me ask you a question, Alan. Because I know Jamie Foxx was an actor in some TV show. I didn't know who he was before Any Given Sunday. How was he chosen? Was he chosen for his athletic ability? Had he played football? Because he really looked like a quarterback.
He had a great double.
Huh?
All those guys
really?
in football, I get the best double and have the best football player to make him look. Now, he had skills.
Yeah.
You know, a guy, he's taking the snap from center and dropping back, and he can look, and then throw. That's okay.
No, well, I'm not expecting him to throw a 50-yard.
No, he'll never will.
Field.
And he won't get hit either. Believe me, none of those actors ever got tackled. You know?
Well, no quarterback gets tackled in practice.
No, never on that.
But he looked really good. Cuba Gooding really was very believable as a wide receiver in varsity. In Jerry Maguire. All the football in Jerry Maguire is very professional.
Yeah, but that fall. It was scary to me because I didn't want the guy landing on his head all the time. You know, I wanted to make sure I got it, and we had no problem. And I did it in one, so there was no cuts.
That's incredible.
Then they go, wow, you know.
I've always thought about that because it looks dangerous.
Looked and it was, but I think it took us maybe 4 or 5 times to get it, where I was happy with it to make it look that way. And the announcers, what I was going to say is, the three guys, I'm sorry, my brain's gone, that did Monday Night Football.
It was Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Deerdorf.
So
yes.
My next movie, I'm in Vegas doing Vegas Vacation, a whole different type of movie. And I get a call one night, and it's these guys. They said, is this Alan Graff? I said, yeah, this is Alan. Said, this is so-and-so. We're here in the editing room. We can't believe that was a fake game that we thought we were watching a real game. I said, yes, that's it. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate that. So
wax on, Al, wax on.
When you get it from these guys that watch football umpteen times, that's pretty good.
Hey, Alan, did you ever know Edgar Sherrick?
The name sounds right. I don't know.
Edgar Sherrick was actually the founder of Monday Night Football, and he lost a power struggle with Roone Arledge, and Roone Arledge took it over. And Edgar came out west and did a lot of movies, and he produced the Stepford Wives and The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and a lot of television movies. And he hired me to write a World War I epic called The Lost Battalion. And we've talked about it on this show, and it was broken up by the International Creative Management Agency. I don't want to get into what happened, but it broke it up. That's basically why I stopped writing screenplays and started becoming a sports writer, which is how you and I met. But and I thought maybe you had met Edgar. He passed around 2002. He did a lot of movies. His last movie was an HBO movie with Alec Baldwin called Path to War, where Baldwin plays Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. But he was a friend of mine, and if he had lived, I probably would have crossed paths with you on the movie set, because I would have been a screenwriter, and I probably would have done a lot of movies with Edgar and James Woods. He was involved with them, but we all our paths all go in a different direction. But I also want to mention a movie that you did, and it was a wonderful movie, and it was different. This is baseball. This is his 42, the Jackie Robinson biopic, with just a great cast. Talk a little bit about that cast and the people you worked with, and
yes,
what it was like recreating Ebbets Field and what have you.
Well, I'll tell you, Brian Hegelin, who won the Academy Award for LA Confidential as a screenwriter, he was a director on a movie he wanted me to do, which was a huge hit called A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. It was a jousting movie I shot in Prague. And he wanted me to do the jousting as tough as I did football movies. And it turned out really great, won awards and stuff. But anyways, he did the movie 42, and he wanted me to do the baseball. And I said, okay, but we got to make the baseball real. I recruited former pros, AAA guys and everything to come in and play. I worked with the actor for a month and a half because he wasn't that good as a player, but we worked with him good enough to make him look right. And that was an unbelievable movie to do, because it was a change for me to do football from baseball and football, vice versa. And it's all real. I'm proud of that movie. And,
Yes.
To tell you the truth, Vince Scully went to the same church as we went out here. It's a Catholic church in Westlake. And I had to ask him, because I knew he was going to show the Dodgers that movie. And I went up to him after him. Mr. Scully, my name's Alan Graff. I just want to let you know that I directed all that baseball in 42. Oh, wow, Alan, that was great. He said, we had a lot of players who were tearing up on that movie. You did a great job. And I said, well, thank you very much, Mr. Scully. I appreciate that. So if you get the A+ from him, you did something. Yeah. But that was a tough movie to do. Now, when you see all that stuff, it's all CGI.
True.
Yeah. It's not there,
But you filmed part of that at Rickwood in Birmingham. My son got the great honor of playing in that, right? A lot of Rickwood there. Yes.
Yeah, we shot there. Yeah, that stadium. It was real.
Yeah. It's the third oldest stadium in the country, and it's still, they're still having travel ball games there. That's what I'm saying. And in their museum, there are pictures of the actors and the cameras and all kinds of stuff that they want to honor the game by having that movie, which was filmed there, as you know, obviously, and the historical aspect of it.
I wonder if I'm in any of them.
I didn't notice. If I had known that you were going to be on, we had the curator on a short while ago. I'll ask him next time I get a chance to visit with him. I'm going to need to go in a second. I have one more question that I really want to ask in terms of your preparedness. Bill Goldberg is a wrestler, but he also was a football player. He played with the Falcons. We were teammates for several years. I remember one time asking him, when he went into professional wrestling, what did you need to learn first? He goes, I had to go to fall school. I go, what are you talking? What's fall school? Is that not spring and summer? He goes, no, you need to learn how to fall and not break bones in your body. Was that a part of the stunt work that you had to do initially when you started, Alan? You had to learn how to not hurt yourself, but still look like you were getting hurt. And how does that transfer over into the film perspective where you're going, I want to make this guy look like he's landing on his head, but I don't want anyone to get hurt. But as a former athlete, you got to be able to tie all that stuff together. What was that like for you?
Well, the first year that I was in the business, I got to meet top-notch stunt guys, and they would go out in the weekends and they would rent cars, and they would put cones out, and we'd learn how to slide cards, do 180s, reverse 180s, or in those days there was a lot of still westerns. I had to learn how to ride a horse and then get shut off a horse, and we did it in dry riverbeds. You know, you'd go practice fighting, you'd practice high falls in the boxes. I did all that. I worked hard for a year and a half, 2 years. I just kept learning stuff, learning that. And so I knew that when I became a stunt coordinator, what I could do and what I couldn't do and what I could ask my stunt people to do. I was very lucky to promote myself farther because I got together with Walter Hill, who was a famous action director. And he was a big
Butch Cassidy, right?
No, not Butch Cassidy. He threw me. I'm going to think of it. But see this bus flip right here? Do you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder if it's up high enough. Do you see this picture?
Sure do.
Yeah, I see it.
That was another 48 hours.
Yeah.
I flipped that bus at 60 miles an hour with 2 cannons in it. And no one had ever done that before. So it was like a feather in my cap. And after that, my career even went higher because of that. So I would, just like football, you know, when I did football movies, I would look at the script, I would draw all the plays, and I'd make a playbook, just like you would if you're in a team. Everybody would get it. The producers, the directors, the cameramen, everybody know. Scene 31, we're running a 24 blast, and I have all the play there. Turn it over, you got another play, another scene. And they love that because I was an information freak. I wanted everybody to know something, so they didn't say, well, I didn't know that. I wanted them all to know what we're doing, and that really helped. They love the information.
Yeah. And the more the players are comfortable with, yeah, we can run 24 blast or 25 blast, or the next one would be 37G or red right 23 Texas H scat, right? They all know what they're supposed to do, and it saves immense amount of time with the director and then the AD and everybody else, right? You're
Absolutely. You know, Harper, any given Sunday, the most plays was like 130 football plays in that movie, something like that.
Wow.
And 99% of them were second unit, me. The rest of them were, you know, close up of the quarterback or something, or sidelines and all that. Yeah. So I knew I wanted to make it right, especially that, because we had a lot of ex-pros playing in that movie too.
Sure.
So you're right, but I did a lot of homework before I started each movie. I really, you know, threw myself in there. That's why my nickname is Coach. Everybody in half the business knows me as Coach because of that. So that's what I'm happy that you asked that question, because I did a lot of prep. Prep is everything. I didn't want to, okay, now we're going to run this play. Let's walk it through so the camera boys know where it's going. No, you already know where it's going. You know who's going to get the ball. You know who's going to make the tackle. And that just stops all the dialogue. Yeah,
and you do it a second or a third or a fourth take, and then you get to move on because you say you're everybody's on the same page, and you get it done quickly. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. Yeah, and you know, I hope I'm not done yet. I hope I got one more left in me. I know I'm going to. I got one more left.
God is going to keep you going, Alan. I can see it.
Well, I had one, and obviously the money. Oh no, that money, and they wanted me to direct first unit, which I was really excited about doing. But you know, I hope at some point between now and by the time I hang it up, I don't want to hang it up yet.
Yeah. So you're like Keith Richards, and Keith is saying, "What do you want to do?" He goes, "I want to write one more song as good as Beast of Burden or Satisfaction."
Yeah,
right. One more in you. Hey, I gotta ask: have you ever said something that either McKay or Goo or maybe your high school coach ever said, and then after you said it, I can't believe I just repeated what I used to hate when McKay or Goo would say that, and now I'm saying the very same thing to my actors.
You know what? I'm trying to think, Harper. I can't remember, but not really. No, I don't remember that. But
well, You didn't take your hat and throw it on the ground or do anything goofy like what? Now McCain didn't do it. He didn't wear a hat, did he? John never wore a hat. Very
No,
rarely, if
very
ever.
rarely. But double days he did. It was so hot. He was up in
Yeah.
a little thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey,
I used
let
to-
me ask you, when you were coming up as a stuntman, was Yakima Canutt still around?
he was older. He was very little of his stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I wrote a book about John Wayne, and he was prominent in that. Did you ever meet the Duke?
I did. I worked on his last movie, The
Oh
Shootist.
my gosh.
And,
With Ron Howard, right? Another USC guy?
Yeah, and this is before I got fully in the stunts. I was the Wranglers got me good. There's a place, the back lot of Warner Brothers, where he shot that, and they got me on a horse, and this horse was crazy, and it was running around, and they said, "Look at Graf, he's gonna fall downward," Anyways, they made a big deal about it, but someone told Duke, that guy, he's a former SC player, and he came over and I said, he introduced me. I said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Wayne." "Well, okay, son," and that was a thrill. I mean, how you could do it? Lucky I didn't call him Marion.
Yes, unbelievable. Glendale High School and USC played for Howard Headman Jones. That is incredible.
Hey, Harper, you said
did you get a chance to interact much with Harrison Ford when you did 42?
He should have won the Academy Award.
I agree with you.
And the studio, they were fighting over something, and they didn't push him. But, he should have got it for his part in there, So, Harper, I have to ask, so is your mom still in the business? What is
No, she and Marianne McAveety were just friends, I guess, carpool stuff and all that. But interesting, so many different people that you get a chance to meet that are in the industry or a part of it. Where Westward Home Market is off of Ventura and Sepulveda.
Right.
I'm visiting my parents a couple of years ago, and I'm walking from the car, which is about 50 yards from the entrance, and Clint Eastwood walks out. Oh. And there's a girl that is my wingman. She's behind me and about 3 feet back, and we're both walking at the same pace. And Clint's getting closer and closer and closer, and we go right by each other. He won't make eye contact with me. I'm looking at him the whole way. I'm just going to say something nice, and it's Clint Eastwood, for crying out loud. And then he walks right by, and I look over at the girl, and I she's my wingman. I go, "That was Clint Eastwood. Did you see him?" She goes, "I know. I can't believe it, but he wouldn't look at you." I go, "I know." But there's certain things. I told my mom about that when I got home. I was visiting, and she goes, "Oh, he's at the store all the time. Nobody cares. It's just no big deal." But it is for some folks that
that absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you think it would be if every single time you go to the store, someone comes up and goes, 6 shots or only 5? I mean, it's like the time I was on this show and I met Jack Nicholson's daughter at USC, and the first thing out of my mouth is I'm going, "Billy, I can't believe that you put yourself in this place. Young guy like you ought to be out bird dogging chicks." I mean, I'm imitating her dad, and she's just like, "Man, come on, just treat me like a regular human." But that's how people are when they're around.
Well, I tell you, I'm in the grocery store, a guy, when I push the cart and someone comes to me and he keeps staring at me, I know he's going to say, "Hey, I saw you in Universal Soldier. You were the diner cook, man. Claude Van Damme, you and him had dialogue." Or, RoboCop. "I saw you in RoboCop, So I guess because I have this face, it's recognizable, and I get it. I'm lucky enough to get in these certain spots. That's what happens, and I didn't mind. I don't mind it. Makes you feel good that I can say, "Yeah, I'm 75 and I still look like I did 30 years ago." So, whatever.
It's very cool.
Well, one thing I want to ask you, Alan, before I need to leave, I've got a football game that I got to actually call here in just a short while. There's a certain athleticism there's a toughness that you get during 2-a-days or when a coach yells at you or whatever, that you learn to quietly filter and not fight back. Is there any portion of that with a director or producers or Hollywood where they're going to say stuff, but you just learn to be quiet? And how has that been a benefit to you to be able to stay in the business as long as you have, because of a discipline or something that you learned athletically that carried over into your professional life?
Well, that's a good point. When I was new, I didn't used to be that easy going like that. You know, I would tell a director, that's not what you want to do, and that's not it. And just like I did the program, and the director wanted the linebacker to say stuff, and they had dialogue back and forth when they were down on the line of scrimmage. It drove me nuts. But after a while, they stopped doing it,
Yeah.
But
you learn to speak up for yourself. I'm not saying you have to. Yeah, absolutely. You fight for what you believe in. But
I would get in shouting matches, and finally I just said, that's it, especially with people directors who didn't understand football, didn't even know what they were doing. They would be lost without me. I'm not patting myself on the back, but they didn't know how to do it. They didn't know what they were doing.
That's why they needed you in the first place, right?
That's right. And hey, I'm making your movie look good. Why don't you appreciate that?
Yeah.
So, but I've calmed down over the years, and people just take what I say something, they believe me. Experience is a big thing. So when you could say, hey, I've done 17 football movies, all different, and I've done war pictures, Mel Gibson, We Were Soldiers Once and Young, a great Vietnam War movie I shot. All that action. That was great.
That's
great
a spectacular movie.
Yeah.
Tear jerker. It's a tear. And they used to come up, and he used to call me Captain, because he thought I looked like the captain on Gilligan's Island. Okay, Captain.
Alan Hale, not Alan Gaff. Yeah.
That's right. And I said, hey, little buddy. Gosh. I used to call him hey, little buddy. So,
amazing. Steven, you're going to take over for the rest of the show. Alan, what a pleasure to have you on.
Nice
again, I hate to have to depart, but what a joy.
Okay.
All right, guys.
All right. Well, we'll see you, Harper. Thank you very much. I'll carry on. We'll just have a couple more questions. Basically, I just wanted, is there anything we've missed? Anything that you'd like to highlight or talk about, whether it's acting, second unit directing, stuntman, that you want to talk about?
Well, the one thing is, I didn't tell you how I met Walter Hill, he became my mentor, and I worked with him many, many years on many pictures. I was walking on the set of 20th Century Fox. In those days, stuntmen could go and meet stunt coordinators and drop off their picture and resume until 911 hit. That ended it. But before that, you could go on the lots and meet people. And so I was walking a lot, and there was an AD that saw me, that worked with me on Gus. And he goes, hey, Alan, come here. I'm working with a famous director who loves SC. I go, really? He goes, Walter Hill. Well, I didn't know Walter Hill from anybody. So I went in there, met him. He goes, Walter, here's a famous SC guy, Alan Graff. Alan Graff, number 61, offensive guard, 19. I went, holy smokes. The guy knew everything about me. He goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm working as a stuntman, actor. I got a part for you on this movie. He was doing a movie called The Driver, Bruce Stern and Ryan O'Neal. And I said, okay, I'm there. From that time, I worked with them for over 40 years. All the movies. I've only missed like 2 or 3 movies. So,
Am I thinking of somebody else? I thought Walter Hill directed Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
No.
Who am I thinking?
No, he wrote the movie that the famous director did, where they're on the train and the train blows up and the horses and everybody goes down. Oh God, I'll tell you in a minute. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it.
Let me see. I've got his IMDb right
But he
here.
wrote that movie. He didn't direct it. The one I'm thinking of.
A train where a bunch of horses go down.
Where the cowboy, yeah, they explode. The Getaway. He wrote The Getaway too.
Oh, with Ali McGraw and
Yeah, and that director directed the Western I'm talking about. That you're trying to think of.
I'm trying to think who did Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Do you remember?
No.
Well, I don't want to spend my whole time scrolling my phone, so we'll move on. Anything else that you want to discuss?
I don't know if you can think of something. That's about it. We covered a lot of stuff from my high school days.
Yeah,
days.
I mean, I loved you in L.A. Confidential. That was a great scene with Russell Crowe, and you come walking out, and he's pulled the Christmas ornaments.
Right, yeah, pulled all the Christmas tree and the sled down from the house.
That's right.
I'm beating up my wife.
Yeah.
I come out there and I say not nice things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
He beats me up, ties me up to the porch.
What can you tell us about working with Oliver Stone? Because wow, that's really something.
That was a tough one. Not so tough when I did the Doors movie because I was just a stunt actor in that one. But
is that how you met or I guess by the time he did Any Given Sunday, you were the guy who did football.
Yeah, I was there. They called me.
Yeah.
I turned him down because I knew what he was like. I turned him down 3 times, but they offered me and I couldn't refuse. So,
right.
And you know what? For all what it was worth, he let me do what I knew what I was doing, And
did you have a role in the editing of that movie or
no,
any of these movies?
Never have a role in editing.
Because that's really a well edited movie.
That's the director and his editors, yeah.
Yeah.
But that editor called me afterwards and said, because in my heyday, I knew that I needed to get him a lot of cuts to make football look great. And that guy said, you gave us everything and more, Alan. It was awesome stuff. And I said, well, I appreciate that because I know what I'm doing. Just like when I did The Replacements, I actually operated a camera. Remember I told you that last 8 plays?
Yeah.
I did it in front of an audience that was watching the Ravens, and I think it was Jacksonville.
Yes.
Preseason game. And because we could see the hall of crowd. And, because of my background and using this, it helped so much. And that's why Keanu Reeves mentioned me, and I appreciate that. That was good.
Well, that was a great movie, and I enjoyed it. I saw that movie in a theater. I personally think Any Given Sunday is the best football movie ever. Jerry Maguire is, yes, it's a football movie, but it's more than that. But the football scenes were excellent. The music that went with some of those scenes, I know that wasn't what you're doing.
Yeah, but
it really worked very nicely.
Well, that's what I thought. Friday Night Lights. I thought the music they did in that show was very good, different. And that was really awesome.
And the quarterback, the young man who played the quarterback in Friday Night Lights, had been in Sling Blade, and then he later played Pee Wee Reese.
Yes, that's true.
What was his name, Alan? Do you remember?
I knew you were going to. Steve, I can't remember names.
I can't remember. He also did these sort of like Tokyo Drift car chase movies.
Yeah.
But he was a wonderful actor, and I really liked his performance in Friday Night Lights. That really captured the essence of young guys finding that 3 or 4 years of their life that they're never going to be able to recapture, and those guys all went on to careers. Those young actors all had careers.
Yeah,
it
was a good bunch. And Listen, I'm proud of everything we do,
Well, you should be.
I got a good team with me. I got a good cameraman, Bob Scott, who's an NFL films operator. He's my cameraman when we do that, and it's just it's great.
Have you ever done any adjunct work at USC, at the USC Film School?
No.
I would have. Oh, that surprises me. I would have thought.
Well, no one called me, and I'm not.
That really surprises me. I mean, who knows that better than you? And that's such an important part of a film, is getting the violence. I mean, you're talking about that photograph behind you, but that's from the second 48 hours, another 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's an incredible scene.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was the bus driver.
I look at scenes where people are being involved in mayhem or cars are exploding, and it looks like, how do you film that without people getting
Well,
killed?
Steve, I'll tell you, and that's another thing. In the era that I grew up and was in the business, and the directors I worked with, this was all on camera. There was no CGI stuff, no AI stuff. So you had to be right on. You had to do it. And when you flip a bus like that at 60 miles an hour with a pound of TNT in there, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to be right on. So that's what helped make it too, because I had to flip a bus underneath the Simi Freeway. This was fun. On Nowhere to Run, a Claude Van Damme movie. And I never got a chance to rehearse with the bus because I was up in San Francisco doubling the guy that I'm supposed to rehearse. And so when I came down, I got there early in the morning, and there was a bunch of people underneath the freeway. And I go, God, I wonder what's going on. And so I walk over there, and they said, what's happening? They go, I'll tell you what's happening, Alan. You got a 60-foot bus, and you only got 80 feet to get through and slide that. So you only got 10 feet on each side. If you hit one of these pillars, we have to close the freeway down, and that's going to cost a lot of money. Now the producers go, you can do it, can't you, Alan? I go, holy smokes. I've never even driven this bus before. I don't even know what to brake. Anyways, make a long story short, I got in it, practiced it a few times. I came in, slid it, and went right in. But I didn't want to flip it. I only wanted to slide it on its side going in the freeway.
Brother, I know why you go to Bible study, because God has been with you.
He was
on
with
some
me.
of these close calls.
That's right.
Is there any doubt about that?
I prayed about that. Believe me, Steve, I prayed and I got it. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to my friend Alan Graff about football and about Hollywood, two of my favorite subjects. Two things that have changed a great deal over the years. They're not the same as they used to be. But I tell you, that's what this show is all about, is nostalgia. So this has been, a blast from the past with Alan Graff, who's been
I haven't talked about those old movies for a long time. And
well, I mean, at least 10 or 12 of the movies that you've talked about just today are in my top 30 list. I mean, all those football movies, Jerry Maguire, Any Given Sunday, all those 48 Hours movies. Heaven Can Wait was a great movie that I enjoyed a great deal back in the day. But, it's funny. I'm sure you learned a lot because you weren't the second unit director in that movie, and the football scenes in that pale in comparison to what you did later.
That's what I was saying. I wasn't going to make it look like that,
The thing about it, I mean, honestly, is I think you created a standard. I don't know. It's going to be very difficult for people to match what you've done because your standard
was high. I set it high.
For football and for violence and for action I can't think of anybody better. It seems to me.
And you want to know something, Steve? I want to do one more because I got other ideas of how to shoot it that will blow people's minds. I don't want to tell it. I don't want to give it away, but I hope someone has a good script and wants me to do it,
Yeah.
Oh, not to change the subject, but
Yes, sir.
we didn't talk about one of the great shows of all time, Deadwood, on HBO.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you ever watch that?
I watched some of it, but I want to ask you one
Because
last.
I did Captain Turner, one of the best fights on TV. Captain Turner.
Well, that brings up a name of a guy who actually wanted to write for that show and didn't. But he went to USC, and in my opinion, he's the greatest screenwriter ever, and that's John Milius.
Oh,
you ever
really?
get to work with Mr. John Milius or know him?
Well, he was very close to Walter Hill. Him and Walter were tight.
Okay.
I met John Milius once, but
Okay.
I didn't have a chance to work with him.
It's funny because he wrote Apocalypse Now, and you were talking about CGI, and those helicopter scenes where those whirlybirds are going around, they're 5 feet from each other, if that. That's real. That's not CGI.
That's real. When I did We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson, all that stuff is real.
Well, that's incredible because those guys, we're talking about napalm dropping.
Well, the napalm, that was brought in later, but to fire close on camera is real.
Right. Well, that's a tremendous
We
movie.
lit guys on fire.
I know a lot of people there. That was a hardcore movie. Sam Elliott was in that movie. Did you get a chance to know him very well?
Oh yeah, I know Sam. I did something else, a few things with him. But,
right.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk forever and ever. You're a guy that you really need to sit down at a bar stool with a couple of people, to get the full effect. And I think if we probably sat down in a restaurant somewhere in the San Fernando Valley or Santa Monica, a lot of people in the movie business would come in there and go, "Hey, that's Alan Graff. I know you."
Maybe not so much more. All my shows everything's dwindling down, but the thing that holds water is the football movies. They still rerun those a lot.
Yes, and those are going to be played forever because they're classics.
Yeah,
classics are. People watch Casablanca, and It's a Wonderful Life because
I love that movie.
They're because they're timeless. It doesn't matter how old they are. The themes are great. The action is great. So listen, I want to thank you very much, sir, a fellow Trojan, Alan Graff, for being on Take 5 with Steven Travers. Harper had to leave early, but I'm sure this was very memorable for him. And I'm going to send you a link to this show, and feel free to send that out to all your friends. And I want to thank you again, Alan, for being a guest. And hey, fight on.
All right, fight on, Steve.
All right, brother.
Let's hope the team does well the rest of the year.
Well, we can hope.
We can hope, yes.
Okay.
All right. Adios.
Thank you. All right, Logan.